Our London family was brutally stolen from all of us, from Canada, along with a sense of safety, well-being, and inclusion.
Sharing the impact of a horrific crime, a Muslim family run down and killed in London.
Tonight's sentencing begins for the man who murdered them. Good evening. 4 members of the Afzal family died while out for a walk in June of 2021.
Today, those who love them shared what they lost as a judge considers whether the killer's actions were an act of terror. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
Friends of the Afzal family and members of the Muslim community arrive at London's courthouse to begin 2 days of victim impact statements, trying to put into words what the loss of 4 family members means to them. If only the offender had not judged Salman Afzal by the color of his skin for his attire, but had taken 1 second to talk to him, said Sidra Jamal, Salman's sister-in-law, adding Salman would have shown him what a wonderful world it could be if people were kind to each other. The Afzal family was out for a walk in London, Ontario on the evening of June 6, 2021, when they were hit by a truck driven by Nathaniel Veltman. Salman Afzal, his wife Medea Salman, and their 15-year-old daughter Yumna Afzal were killed along with his mother Talat Afzal. The youngest member of the family, a 9-year-old boy, was seriously injured but survived the attack. In November, Veltman was found guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. During the trial, court heard the killer deliberately drove his pickup truck into the family, wanting to frighten the Muslim community so they would leave Canada.
We have seen incredible moments of solidarity and love from people of all walks of life. And we have also, unfortunately, seen a persistent increase in Islamophobic incidents across the country.
Nearly 70 victim impact statements are expected to be read over the next 2 days. Loved ones sharing their grief, but also their fear. When I go for a walk, I wonder if it would be me, said Tabinda Bukhari, the mother of Medea Salman. Any big black truck that zooms by freezes me in my tracks. The statements being read won't impact the length of the sentence. First-degree murder convictions carry an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for 25 years. But they could affect the judge's decision on whether the killer's actions constitute an act of terrorism, something that will be argued at a separate hearing later this month.
And CTV's Heather Wright joins us live from London with more on the sentencing hearing. Heather, so many people sharing their feelings in court today. Will Veltman speak, and do people even want to hear from him?
Well, he will have an opportunity to speak at that trial, at that hearing later this month. But really, Nathan, it's up to him as to whether he chooses to say something to the judge or not. We're told by his lawyers that he hasn't made that decision just yet. But he was in court today listening as family members, loved ones, members of the community shared with him and with the court and with the judge just what his actions on those days, what they have caused, the grief that they continue to go through nearly 2.5 years after that attack.
All right, CTV's Heather Wright in London. Thank you. And you can read more details of the victim impact statements and follow developments in the sentencing hearing on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
The search for suspects in an act of hate in our city continues tonight.
Toronto police looking for the culprits who torched and vandalized a Jewish-owned business in North York. CTV's Mike Walker joins us from Steeles Avenue West with the latest. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, this hate-motivated crimes has left the Jewish community reeling. The mayor condemning the act, the police chief vowing his officers will arrest those who are responsible.
The owner of International Delicatessen Foods covers up graffiti on his business store that read Free Palestine. The Jewish-owned deli remains closed a day after a suspected hate-motivated arson. The owner declined an interview, but his customers and community members are expressing outrage.
Total frustration. How the deli store can be related to variation.
It's not normal. I cannot sleep.
Fire broke out at the North York Deli on Steeles near Keele around 6 yesterday morning. In this video, you can see gas cans near the air conditioning units on the roof. And area investigators were seen collecting evidence and leaving with 3 gas cans in hand. Police believe the business was targeted.
The owners of this business are just a random Jewish family with a random business with no specific connection as far as it seems to anything to what's going on in Israel. and yet they have become a target.
Jamie Kersner-Roberts is with the Center of Jewish and Israel Affairs and says while this incident is alarming, it's not shocking.
We've seen violent rhetoric escalating, both on social media and on the streets. And we know that violent words lead to violent action.
The hate crime unit is leading the investigation. The police chief stating his investigators will leave no stone unturned in arresting whoever is responsible.
Make no mistake, it was a criminal act that was organized and has inflicted great harm in our communities. And in my view, was hate motivated.
Condemnation from the mayor.
Being hateful, inciting, targeting people because of their religion, because of their race, ethnicity, where they come from, skin color, is just not who we are in Toronto.
And Ontario's Solicitor General, who visited the scene this afternoon.
For those extremists that think they have a right to come here to our communities and destabilize it and promulgate hate, you have no place here.
Toronto police reporting nearly 100 hate crimes since the start of the Israel-Hamas war, describing this latest incident as a tipping point.
This leaves everyone in the Jewish community feeling unsafe. Am I going to be the next target?
This afternoon, officers were seen canvassing the area. The Office of the Fire Marshal has completed its investigation on scene, but at this point is yet to release any information about a cause.
Now, at this point, there is no suspect description, and because investigators believe that this was targeted, they believe the suspects would have visited this area before, and that's why they're appealing to anyone who may have noticed any suspicious activity over the past couple of days and may have any dash cam or surveillance footage of that to come forward. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Also tonight, a TTC bus clips a cherry picker in the city's West End, leaving construction workers up in the air. Details and the rescue coming up.
But first, let's take a live look outside tonight. The sun has set, but we got a good look at it today. Finally, a real change in the weather as the clouds parted. But in return, the mild air is gone, and it sure feels cooler as wind chill becomes a factor once again. Beautiful look at our skyline today. This is the satellite radar. Not much to speak of. That little bits of blue in the Toronto area, I'd say that's more clutter. We're just dealing with clouds building at this hour. -5 in Toronto right now, but it feels cooler, like -12, -4 in Burlington, feeling like -10. If it feels really cool, just switch to feeling like -11 there. If it feels really cool right now, it actually is very much seasonal for this time of year, but we had so much mild weather for weeks that it is a bit to get used to. Overnight at a glance, the low -7, wind chill making it feel like -13, mainly cloudy conditions. We've got some wind coming from the southwest. And look tomorrow, when you step out the door, you'll want to be bundled. What's coming up this weekend? And some flurries in the forecast, maybe even a snow event next week. We'll bring you up to speed in the full forecast still ahead.
As we move into 2024, Toronto police are outlining crime statistics from last year.
Overall, it's an upward trend, one that's raising concerns in the city. CTV's Beth McTonnell joins us to break down some of the numbers. Beth, what have you learned?
Michelle, as crime went up in 2023, so did the tips to Crime Stoppers. Major crime stats and the number of tips are both up 17%. New statistics in Toronto are painting a picture of people breaking the law and those working to stop perpetrators. Police numbers show crime was up in 2023 compared to 2022 by more than 17%. The biggest increase, break-and-enters up 25%, auto thefts up 24%, with thefts over $5,000 up 17% and assaults up 15%. Also up by smaller margins, homicides close to 3%, robberies 9%, and sexual violations at 6%. Celebrating its 40th year, tips to Crime Stoppers are also up 17% in 2023 versus 2022. But despite more participation, which can be anonymous, the number of arrests made as a result compared to the year before is down. Fewer illegal narcotics were seized and fewer homicides solved. However, the amount of property seized in 2023 is way up by millions of dollars. And so too are auto thefts, a reflection of the volunteer service shifting, it says.
Auto theft last year was big, so we've targeted that. And as a result, you can see the numbers are increasing. When crimes are happening, we will put a focus. There are so many things that the program can do.
Toronto's police chief is a big supporter. Crime Stoppers' success hinged on residents making that important call.
We could not have done this without the assistance of the public. So thank you to our communities.
For safety on the streets, solving crimes, and returning property. Police and Crime Stoppers want to raise awareness with the public that Crime Stoppers is an avenue to report crime. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Now back to Nathan.
All right, thank you, Beth. A shooting in Mississauga is now a homicide investigation. Peel police say a man was shot multiple times near Battleford Road and Glen Erin Drive just after 5 yesterday. That's not far from the Meadowvale Library and Community Center. The victim died from his injuries. He's been identified as 26-year-old Sean Murphy of Mississauga. Police are asking anyone who may have been in the area or have footage from that time to contact them.
At 5:15 p.m., there's likely to have been a number of vehicles, perhaps pedestrians, perhaps dog walkers that might have been in the area. So please, if anyone has any information, contact members of either our 11 Division Criminal Investigations Bureau or our homicide unit.
Investigators say 2 male suspects were seen running from the scene yesterday.
A man remains in hospital following a shooting in Rexdale. It happened near Islington Avenue and Bergamot Road, north of Rexdale Boulevard, shortly before 6:30 last night. The victim was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the suspect left the scene in a dark-colored SUV.
Toronto police have made an arrest in a voyeurism investigation at U of T. Police say this suspect loitered in women's washrooms and gender-neutral showers on campus near Spadina and Wilcox Street. Victims say he placed a cell phone underneath stalls to record. The alleged incidents took place between July and October last year, and police believe there are likely more victims out there. 28-year-old Dang Pham of Kitchener is charged with 5 counts of voyeurism and 6 of mischief.
We turn to a rescue operation that unfolded in the city's West End this afternoon.
A piece of construction equipment clipped by a TTC bus. A couple of workers becoming trapped in the process. CTV Sean Leithong joins us live from Dundas West and Old Dundas Street with the details. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, fire crews had to work very quickly this afternoon to get the 2 workers down. You can see behind me, the cherry picker is still in the area that it came to rest. Just in front of me is the bus that actually clipped it. Witnesses say that the cherry picker had actually veered into the road. Fire crews worked to help an injured construction worker down from a cherry picker after a collision with a TTC bus.
We heard a loud bang, and the bus, the cherry picker didn't have any safety cones out, and the bus hit the cherry picker.
In the aftermath, a bus parked in the eastbound lanes showed damage to the upper front. Not far away, a section of the cherry picker shows some damage.
The boom had extended slightly over the road, and that's what the bus hit, because normally they have a spotter.
Tanya Cronin was across the street at the time and provided these images of the rescue efforts by Toronto Fire. According to Toronto Police, the crash happened at 2:20 this afternoon near a new condo build on Dundas West right before the Humber River Bridge, with fire crews responding immediately.
We had our crews respond to an incident where a TTC bus collided with a lift truck, which was in a live lane of traffic. We had 2 persons injured.
Once they had been brought to safety, one of the workers was taken to hospital with minor injuries.
And I noticed that there was a stretcher with somebody being pulled off of a forklift.
The driver of the bus did not want to talk on camera, but confirmed that there were no injuries on the bus. According to police, the Ministry of Labor is investigating as witnesses say the cherry picker veered into a live lane of traffic.
The crane part of it was encroached onto the road, yeah.
Traffic along Dundas West was being diverted for about 2 hours, as fire crews said that despite the injuries, this could have been much worse. So Dundas West has reopened, but as you can see behind me, police are holding the scene. So 1 lane of traffic going eastbound remains closed. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. I'll send it back inside.
Thank you, Sean. The completion of a second bridge connecting Windsor and Detroit is being delayed by 10 months.
Every day that's not open is the loss of money. There's no doubt about it. But the reality is I can't make it go any faster.
The Gordie Howe International Bridge was scheduled to open in November of 2024. Now, the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority is looking at September of 2025. Officials say the pandemic caused construction disruptions. The final contract value is now expected to balloon from $5.7 billion Canadian to $6.4 billion. Both ends of the bridge are expected to meet in the middle this summer.
In Iowa, one student was killed and 5 others were wounded in a shooting at a school today.
Our hearts are heavy today and our prayers are with the Perry community. This strikes at the heart of everything that we hold dear. This senseless tragedy has shaken our entire state to the core.
A 6th grade student was killed when a 17-year-old opened fire at Perry High School shortly after 7:30. 4 of the wounded victims are students and the 5th is a school administrator. All are expected to recover. The suspect died of what investigators believe was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was a student at the school. Police discovered an improvised explosive device that was rendered safe. The motive for the attack is under investigation. The high school and middle school are connected in the town of Perry, about 65 kilometers northwest of Des Moines. A warning, this next story has disturbing content. In Gaza, health officials say Israeli shelling killed more than 20 Palestinians today.
The strikes happened as a funeral was held for the deputy leader of Hamas, who was killed in Beirut this week. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
A funeral procession in Beirut for Hamas's second-in-command. Saleh al-Aruri was assassinated on Tuesday in a suburb controlled by Hezbollah, a terrorist ally. Israel has not claimed responsibility, but as al-Aruri's supporters mourned, the IDF struck more Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, the death toll continues to climb in Gaza. Where is international law, cries out this uncle of a dead child. Children are getting shelled as they sleep. They are bombing them. The entrance to Nasser Hospital resembles a morgue. Of the 16 shrouded bodies, more than half are children. Doctors say the victims were living in tents outside the hospital. 53 people were also wounded in the attack. This eyewitness, pointing to a crater, said the strike came at midnight. One body was found 40 meters away. A Red Cross building in a residential area was also hit. But after meeting with U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remained undeterred in his mission to destroy Hamas.
Making sure that we can return our citizens in the north and in the south. And for that, we'll apply maximum power with maximum precision everywhere that's needed.
And we have your back.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will arrive in the Middle East later this evening. He will visit 9 countries. His aim will be to calm tensions and contain a widening conflict. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
ISIS has claimed responsibility for 2 bombings in Iran that killed at least 84 people. 284 others were injured in the blast yesterday during a commemoration for an Iranian general slain in a 2020 U.S. drone strike. One expert thinks the terror group likely hoped to see Iran strike at Israel, widening its war on Hamas into a regional conflict that Islamic State could potentially take advantage of.
We turn now to Russia's war on Ukraine. Both sides launched long-range aerial strikes today. 1 person was killed and 8 others were injured in a Russian missile attack on a central Ukraine city. Officials say an energy facility was damaged in the attack that also targeted an industrial area. Russia says it shot down 10 Ukrainian missiles over Crimea and 10 over the city of Belgorod. Meanwhile, the U.S. says Moscow has acquired ballistic missiles from North Korea and is also seeking close-range ballistic missiles from Iran.
In Japan, rescue teams are not giving up as chances of finding survivors after Monday's earthquake diminish. People are still being pulled out alive. An elderly man was rescued from the rubble of a collapsed building yesterday. It took crews about 44 hours to get him out. Rescue operations have been reinforced with the addition of about 3,600 soldiers on top of the initial 1,000. 84 people were killed in the quake. More than 300 others were injured. Aftershocks continue to shake coastal areas today.
The United States will assist in the reading of the flight recorders following this week's deadly plane collision in Tokyo. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board says Japan sought help with the Honeywell-made flight data and voice recorders. 5 people on board a Coast Guard plane were killed in the collision with a passenger jet on the same runway. Everyone on the airliner was evacuated safely. The investigation is focused on the communication between traffic control and both pilots. Each has said they had permission to use the runway, but an air traffic control transcript does not show the Coast Guard plane getting a clear green light to take off.
A court in Las Vegas is reviewing its protocols after a judge was attacked during a sentencing hearing.
You get a taste of something else because I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court.
The defendant leapt over the bench, landing on top of the judge, sparking a brawl with court officials. It happened after Kay Hothus made it clear she intended to put the defendant behind bars, and the court marshal moved to handcuff him. The judge suffered some injuries but was not hospitalized.
A majestic symbol of Canada's north may be under threat from a flu virus. Scientists are concerned about the potential spread of avian flu in Canadian polar bears. The disease killed a bear in Alaska, about 500 kilometers from our border. Polar bears can range hundreds of kilometers, and the bear was part of a population shared by the two countries. At least one expert thinks there's a high likelihood bird flu already exists in animals on the Canadian side, but it's not clear yet what effect it would have on the bear population.
Denmark's queen made one last public appearance today before stepping down. Europe's longest reigning monarch rode through Copenhagen, concluding her final New Year celebrations. The Queen will abdicate on January 14th after 52 years on the throne. The popular 83-year-old royal will hand over duties to her son, Crown Prince Frederik. The Queen said recently that her back surgery last year led to thoughts about the future, and she believes now is the right time to make the change.
Coming up, answering the call of the wild. The Toronto Zoo holds its annual job fair. Details on the hunt for animal lovers just ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, it's a new year and there are new scams to watch out for. The CRA is warning that criminals are calling saying you owe the government money and you could be arrested. One woman just lost more than $5,000. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
Clouds are pushing in this evening, and as the temperature dips, expect a biting wind chill to go along with it. Hopefully all those skaters are bundled up. Will we have a decent dose of sunshine for your Friday? Your full forecast after the break.
There are many scams to watch out for, and another one making the rounds involves criminals impersonating the Canada Revenue Agency.
You may get a phone call demanding immediate payment, and if you don't pay, you're threatened with jail time. Here's Pat Foran and a Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. Scammers may say they're with the CRA and that you owe back taxes or you're involved in criminal activity. When a Mississauga woman got a call, she felt threatened and was then scammed out of more than $5,000. A woman we'll call Sue asked us not to identify her as she is still shaken after being threatened by someone claiming to work with the Canadian government.
I was scared, so I did everything to clear my name. I was trying to protect my family.
Last month, the caller said there was evidence she was involved in money laundering and was wanted in Canada and the U.S. She was told to cooperate or face serious consequences.
Harm would come to me and my family and my kids, and I was just terrified.
Sue was told she could clear her name by sending money, but it had to be done using Apple gift cards. She sent $500 at a time until she was eventually scammed out of $5,500. There are various schemes criminals use to impersonate Revenue Canada. Paul Murphy says most involve using threatening language and demanding immediate payment.
They say if you don't pay right away, there's an arrest warrant, we're going to send the police, we're going to send you to jail. I mean, these are all fraudulent activities because that's not how the CRA is ever going to communicate with taxpayers.
Murphy says the CRA would also never ask for money the way Sue was scammed.
If they're demanding that you make payment by a gift card, by a prepaid credit card, through cryptocurrency, Bitcoin ATMs, that's not how the CRA is ever going to ask you to make a payment.
While the CRA uses mail as its main method of correspondence, there are times you could get a phone call. But if something doesn't seem right, ask for the caller's name, number, and department.
If they refuse to give you any of that information, hang up, because our officers are never going to withhold information from you like that.
As for Sue, she is embarrassed that she was scammed and says her family could have used that money.
I can't sleep at night. I'm a nervous case. I snap at everybody because I'm so angry at myself.
And the CRA also does not send out emails or texts to receive tax refunds or government benefits. If you get one, don't click on the links, as it's scammers fishing for your information. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca. It's brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
All right, time to talk about that forecast, and it's been like a couple of weeks of clouds, overcast. We finally got some sun, but there was a price to pay.
Price to pay. It sure feels a lot cooler, but here's the thing. This time of year, the temperatures that we have today are normal. We should really be used to them by now, but it has been so mild that we're kind of wimps.
Yeah, right? A little spoiled.
But have a look at this. I first want to show you our beautiful skyline this morning as the sun rose. An all-new feeling in the air, the natural vitamin D from the return of sunshine helping to finally fuel our moods. You were probably shivering, but this cool air, very much normal for this time of year. It's a good idea to get used to it. Let's get to some specifics. It's a cool evening. In Toronto right now, -5, but with the wind chill feeling like -11. Much colder in Ottawa, feeling like -18, and a bit warmer in Windsor with -4, the current temperature. If we look at the radar, nothing to speak of, just cloud cover building after that sunny day that we had. Tonight's lows were down to a low of -7, but with the wind in the mix, feeling like -13, a bit warmer in Niagara Falls, a bit cooler in Hamilton. Now, tomorrow's highs. Tomorrow, Friday, has finally arrived. The high, 1 degree. The average for this time of year is -1.6, so this is a bit of a treat, but there is a wind chill in the mix, so it will feel like -4 in Toronto tomorrow. So let's break down your Friday. 8 a.m., you'll get a beautiful dose of sunshine, but you will want to bundle up. -5 degrees, the wind chill making it feel like -12. By noon, a little less sunshine, but still nice with the temperature sitting at the freezing mark. And then clouds push in even more for 6 p.m., 1 degree. I want to show you the forecast radar as we approach the weekend. If I just run it here. So Friday, we've got some clouds build in. And then by Saturday, you're going to notice coming up from the south, a system. So we've got flurries in the mix for Saturday night and then into Sunday as well. So we are expecting a dose of flurries through the weekend. Nothing much, but you might have to dust off the car on Sunday. It's important to keep in mind if you do have plans. So the high Friday, 1, Saturday, -1, Sunday, a high of 0 degrees. But we do have those flurries on the weekend. The sun returns on Monday, which is really nice. The high is 0 degrees. And then I want to draw your attention to Tuesday and Wednesday. A system is heading our way, bringing with it snow and flurries. How much snow? It's really tough to say at this point. And if you look at the highs of 1 degree, depending on the temperature, we could have snow, then it turns to rain, then it turns back to snow. But definitely, if you're looking ahead to next week, this is something to consider, and we'll have much better picture as we move through the weekend. And then, hey, some sunshine Thursday, 0 degrees. That's your long-range forecast.
Also tonight, a major medical breakthrough in treatment for people with hemophilia. A one-time dose that might be a permanent solution using gene therapy. Health reporter Pauline Chan has the details.
There's new hope for people living with hemophilia.
Canada has become the first country in the world to approve use of a gene therapy that promises to revolutionize treatment for the disorder. We get the details from CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan.
It just fundamentally changed having to worry about getting injured all the time.
It was almost 8 years ago that Jay Konduros received a new gene therapy, a one-time infusion to allow his body to make the clotting factor F9, which is missing in people with hemophilia B.
This is a huge leap forward.
McMaster hematologist Dr. Alfonso Lloria was involved in the research to develop the gene therapy, now being marketed as Becvase.
Factor 9 was produced as a recombinant protein, again lyophilized in bottles, infused back in the patient vein, usually 2 times a week.
The one-time treatment Jay received appears to be a permanent solution.
Right from the day I got the gene therapy treatment, I never had another issue with hemophilia, just to this day.
But Yorio says further monitoring is needed. There are some 200 patients with severe hemophilia B in Canada, but many are children who are not eligible for the treatment yet, and other patients may have other disqualifying factors, so only about 50 patients might receive Becvase.
With gene therapy, a lot of the news has come rapidly, but this has been something that our community has been looking forward to or looking towards for many decades.
David Page is considering looking into Becvase for himself.
This is not quite a cure, but it's a huge improvement for some people. And again, not all people, because not everybody's eligible. Children aren't eligible.
And Kondiros, who recalls that a minor bruise for others can result in a week-long hospital stay for a hemophilia patient, says children would likely benefit the most from this gene therapy in the future. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Scientists have found a way to help Alzheimer's drugs seep inside the brain faster using sound waves. Researchers from the New England Journal of Medicine found that sound waves actually open a temporary opening in the brain, which allows the drugs to slide inside its protective shield. In an experiment by the University of West Virginia, researchers found that spots in the brain where the shield was open had more plaque cleared.
A new study suggests artificial intelligence is still far from matching the abilities of human health professionals when it comes to treating children. Researchers at Cohen Children's Medical Center in New York put OpenAI's ChatGPT to the test with 100 pediatric case studies. The software came up with a wrong or too vague diagnosis in 83 of them. The findings were published in JAMA Pediatrics as debates continue over the use of AI in medical settings.
Fans around the world are remembering stage and screen star Glynis Johns tonight following news of her death at age 100.
We're clearly soldiers in petticoats and dauntless crusaders for women's votes.
Over her decades on screen, Johns was best known as the suffragette mother Winifred in Mary Poppins. She also won a Tony for her work in Stephen Sondheim's A Little Night Music, as the first to sing Broadway classic Send in the Clowns. John's manager says she died of natural causes in Los Angeles.
Elvis Presley is the next musical legend who will be returning to the stage in hologram form.
You'll see Elvis perform in front of you for the very first time in London, actually. And you'll see this unique performance generated by AI. So it's really going to be something special. And it's overall a joyous celebration of his life and his music.
Elvis Evolution was created under a deal with the King's estate. Thousands of the star's photos and videos were used to compile the new AI performances. The experience will open in London later this year with plans to tour to Las Vegas, Tokyo, and Berlin.
If you're waiting for Britney Spears to make her return as a solo artist, you may be waiting a very long time. The pop star took to Instagram Wednesday and pushed back on reports she was working on a new album. Spears said she would, quote, never return to the music industry. She added that she's written 20 songs for other artists over the last 2 years as a ghostwriter, posting, I honestly enjoy it that way.
More than a decade after it went off the air, musical TV show Smash is one step closer to making the jump to Broadway. The NBC series told the story of two performers vying for the role of Marilyn Monroe in a fictional Broadway show. Plans for a live adaptation produced in part by Steven Spielberg were announced last year. Variety reports a cast of Broadway mainstays has been set with workshop rehearsals starting this month.
2023 marked the best year for Canadian movie theaters since the start of the pandemic. That's according to figures from the Movie Theater Association shared with The Hollywood Reporter. They show overall box office revenue nearing $900 million last year. That was a 34% increase from 2022, but it was still short of the just over $1 billion mark seen in 2019. Those figures come as awards season in Hollywood brings new questions for a possible top contender.
Barbie dominated the 2023 box office and could be up for a raft of awards this year. Variety reports the Academy of Motion Arts and Sciences has classified the Greta Gerwig film as an adapted screenplay. The makers of Barbie had reportedly been campaigning for a Best Original Screenplay nomination, and the Writers Guild of America has designated it as an original work.
The Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy, court-approved liquidation sale.
Could home sales be on the rebound, even with the high cost of borrowing? Activity jumped last month. We hear from Toronto's Regional Real Estate Board after the break.
The apprehension and lack of safety and security are all real.
Updating our top stories, a sentencing hearing got underway today for Nathaniel Veltman, convicted of killing 4 members of the Afsal family in a truck attack in 2021. Dozens of victim impact statements are being read, sharing the Muslim community's overwhelming grief and fear in the wake of the incident.
This leaves everyone in the Jewish community feeling unsafe.
The Toronto Police Hate Crimes Unit is investigating after a Jewish-owned deli was set on fire and spray painted in North York early yesterday morning. The number of anti-Semitic incidents in the city has soared in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war. Mayor Olivia Chow said it's not acceptable to target people because of their religion.
And I noticed that there was a stretcher with somebody being pulled off of a forklift.
And one person suffered minor injuries after a TTC bus collided with a piece of construction equipment in the city's West End. 2 people on the cherry picker had to be extricated by fire crews, and one was taken to hospital. Toronto police say the Ministry of Labour has been called in.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
In business, Apple shares fell again today amid concerns iPhone sales are still softening. Andrew Balabian in Bloomberg has those details.
Hello there. Another brokerage firm has cut its rating on Apple amid concerns that iPhone sales are weaker than investors hope. Piper Sandler brought its rating down to neutral, citing a weak economy in China that will dampen demand for Apple's crucial product. Earlier this week, Barclays went to a sell rating. Apple revenues have fallen for the past 4 quarters. The stock, which soared nearly 50% last year, is now down about 6% in 2024. On the markets, the Canadian dollar changed hands at 74.89 US cents, down a fraction. WTI oil, the North American crude benchmark, was at $72.19 US a barrel, down 51 cents. And the TSX ended the session at 20,871.35, up just under 53 points. That's the latest in business from BNN Bloomberg. I'm Andrew Bell.
The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board is out with year-end data showing a fairly flat 2023 for the GTA. Just shy of 66,000 homes were sold through the MLS system last year. That marked a more than 12% dip compared to 2022. TREB linked the drop in sales to high borrowing costs and strict mortgage rules. Experts say more buyers could be willing to get off the sidelines if interest rates stabilize or drop.
There's likely going to be a downward trend in the coming months. And so I think a lot of households are taking a bit of a wait and see attitude. But once we do start to see that downward trend, look for the market to pick up fairly quickly.
The average selling price for all home types last year was around $1.13 million. TREB says that number could climb as competition in the real estate market heats up in the months ahead.
Experts say a new foot traffic analysis shows Toronto's downtown is bouncing back from the pandemic, but the process is still underway. CTV multi-platform writer Phil Sikora spoke with researchers at U of T's School of Cities about their findings. You can find his coverage and what the numbers say about Toronto's downtown recovery on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
As 2024 gets underway, the Toronto Public Library is still dealing with the aftermath of a major cyber attack that prompted the shutdown of its website. The library has said a late October attack saw its network compromised and employee data was also likely stolen. Police and the Privacy Commissioner are investigating. While branches have been open, online services are still unavailable. The library says they should be restored starting later in January.
In sports, the Raptors were in action last night against the Memphis Grizzlies.
Schroeder, up fake, ball fake, bucket! Big play right there. And you know what?
The Raps took the lead after the first quarter and managed to hold off the Grizzlies. Toronto ending up winning the game 116 to 111. The team is back on the court tomorrow to take on the Sacramento Kings.
Bertuzzi got it to Tavares. Nylander loose in front and goes Stahl again.
The Maple Leafs were looking for a second straight win when they took on the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim opened the scoring in the second period, but the Leafs rallied for a 2-1 victory in overtime. The team will have a couple days off before continuing their California road trip with a game against the San Jose Sharks on Saturday.
Here comes Minnesota. Turned over right to Heisey.
And the final two teams of the Professional Women's Hockey League made their debuts last night. Taylor Heisey, the #1 overall pick, scored the first goal for Minnesota early in the first period. Nicole Hensley made 33 saves to help Minnesota beat Boston 3-2. Teams are scheduled to play 24 games before the playoffs start in May.
Sweden will play for gold on home ice at the World Junior Hockey Championship.
Away by Lindstad. Chance there for a lead pass. Ostlund into the breakaway. Noah Ostlund in scores! Noah Ostlund gives the Swedes some insurance with 8 to go.
The Swedes beat Czechia 5-2 today in one of the semifinal matchups. Sweden has won the tournament twice, the last time in 2012. It also made the final in front of its fans twice, but settled for silver both times.
Smith plays that back. Now teed up Stucker and scores!
And Sweden will play the United States for gold on Friday. The Americans battled back from an early 2-goal deficit to defeat Finland 3-2 today. The U.S. beat Sweden in last year's bronze medal game in Halifax.
Just ahead, a wild way to make a living. The Toronto Zoo puts out the call to fill dozens of jobs this summer. The animal attractions that need help coming up.
Tonight, launching into the future.
This is the first ever private company landing on the moon.
A new rocket aims to eclipse the competition and redefine the space race. Later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A treat for thrill seekers. Tomorrow on CP24 Breakfast, Daredevil Keith Sayer gives us a sneak peek at his motocross stunt show. CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
Well, if you're an animal lover, this could be your dream job.
The Toronto Zoo held a hiring fair today, and as CTV's Allison Hurst reports, you couldn't say it was a wild event.
The room is filled with prospective employees for the Toronto Zoo's job fair, and many encountered a surprise visitor.
This is Chino. She is a black rat snake. Black rat snakes are the largest snakes that we have right here in Canada.
A good reminder for anyone who lands a job here. They'll be working around all kinds of species.
No matter what department you're working in, when you end up here at the zoo, you're going to be around animals, so you have to be okay with them being really close like this type of thing.
Working with reptiles is a draw for zoology student Sophia Golars.
Toronto Zoo has some more international species, which I think would be really interesting. Reptiles too, it's just kind of my hobby.
Melody Facey-Paul is also studying zoology.
What really interests me about the zoo is the conservation side of it, and just also being able to work with different species of animals and very exotic animals. I mean, this is one of the only places where I could hopefully be able to work with polar bears or other animals like that.
Staff say nearly 400 people signed up for this job fair. Doug Prentice says he's open to any position.
I've been retired 3 years. I used to work for the CDC for 41 and a half years, and I just love the zoo. So I believe in a strong community, and that's why I'm here, hoping to be successful this year.
Positions available include everything from guest relations, gardening, and seasonal zoo camp counselor to manager of wildlife health operations.
We have just under 100 roles, 34 different positions, and we think we're going to get a great amount of choice from the candidates we're seeing today.
Zoo CEO Dolph DeYoung says they're not just looking for seasonal workers, but that is a priority.
If teachers are out, we're in. So March break will be busy, and then things really kick off for us in May.
Cassius Dungor is looking at customer relations for now, but is excited about the opportunities he could be exposed to down the road.
Eventually working with animals or getting to witness more research with animals would be nice.
The job fair ran today from 10 until 2, but positions are also posted on their website. Allison Hurst, CTV News.
Well, we had some sun today, and that was nice. The hope is we get some more, but maybe not.
Well, we get one more day of sunshine.
Not bad.
The sunshine is short-lived, and then clouds move in for the weekend. But really, it's Friday tomorrow. Get out and enjoy. Let's look first at the current temperatures right now. In Toronto, it's -5, feeling cooler than that, like -11. And after the mild weather we've had, yeah, it really feels cold right now. A little bit warmer in Burlington and Grimsby and Niagara Falls. Let's have a peek at your 7-day forecast. Here's how it shakes down. So we get that sun on Friday, but clouds will move in for your weekend. The high on Saturday, -1. The high on Sunday, 0. Look at the flurries. Saturday night into Sunday, we'll get a dusting of snow. Monday, we get more sunshine and 0, and a snow event potentially for Tuesday and Wednesday. But the temperature, highs of 1. It really will depend on how it shakes out temperature-wise, is if we're going to be shoveling or not.
All right, we'll find out. Be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.